We have just seen that the United Nations big conference has just ended in New York, in our own backyard. All the world leaders assembled here after a COVID break, I would put it that way. And they've met in person at the United Nations General Assembly, and the usual things happen, as it all happens every year. And I have been seeing it for as many years. They all come, New York City is packed, and guess what? It keeps repeating itself. That gives me stress. All the entire New York City is highly stressed when the new UN General Assembly happens. Yes, there are some businesses happening, but on a bigger scale, do the problems get resolved? I haven't seen any happen in that fashion. Many meetings are held, conversations happen, expert committees, select committees. They all meet, discuss, thrash out issues, and then they argue about what position I'm going to take. That produces a very interesting word called stress. If these heads of state do not recognize that the world is going through a major stress of its own, they not attending to that makes it even tougher. People have expectation. These leaders assemble, speak for 15, 20 minutes and go home. What happens? Why do we meet? Why do we do certain things if it doesn't produce a result? This entire conference can happen without physical presence in New York, but everybody comes here. So the thought that I had in mind was to talk about with you today on non-political event. There is enough of politics all day long in the TV and that you see, enough of problems all over, but it does produce what I once heard, an element called stress in our individual lives, in our family lives, in our occupational lives. How do we deal with that? And it's very funny that I'm reminded of a major management consultant who told us when I was a very young officer in RBI in Bangalore, October of 83. That was a remarkable prophetic statement when he said that late 90s or early 2000, United States will begin to embrace Indian values, the Hindu values of meditation, pranayam, and yoga, because the country is so stressed out. Living in India, we had no clue what stress was. We lived a life. We competed in exams to get a job, to get a good education. For us, it was part of our daily life. We didn't even know the word, I did not know the word stress. We thought that's what life is all about. But coming to America, we began to realize what stress is. And the whole world has to deal with it in each one of our lives. And I have a very interesting person to talk about it. Why I call him an interesting person? Because he's a good friend to begin with. He's a good friend, he's a physician, he's a surgeon, he's a urologist, an author, a philosopher, thinker, and a spiritual guy all bundled into one. Very difficult to find a combination of such people. And I wonder at times, did he suffer any stress because of all the multiple jobs that he does and all the multiple occupations that he pursues, ambition that he pursues? Was it stressful or was it fun? Dr. Krishna Bhatt, welcome to the show. I know I made a little longish introduction, but it's a tough matter. You know, you feel stressed out when you are talking about stress. So I want to begin this conversation. You have been with me on the show before, and most probably my viewers know you. You are in Maine, that I know. It's a beautiful place. I promise that this fall I'll visit you sometime, and hopefully I'm able to. That is also to create a stress on myself to make that commitment. Having said that, I want to begin this entire conversation that you are so multi-talented. How did you end up writing a book like this, Journey from Life to Life? I mean, this is truly remarkable. I want you to share. I've read this book. And the reason why I'm talking about it, this book I read almost a year ago, isn't it? So this is not a book promo. But when I read the book, I was even more impressed as to how much deep thought you have gone into. in explaining what life is all about and how to confront truth the way it ought to be. Your time, sir.
Thank you, Vibhuti. You had said so many things, and I want to analyze your speech now. Otherwise, I will get stressed. But let's talk about the book itself. There was a series of events that happened that piqued my interest into um, finding out about what happens after life and can we do something about it when we are alive, because most of us plan. We love to plan holidays, plan vacations, plan our career, plan our path. But when it comes to death and dying, all we do is probably have an insurance that will pay for cremation or something like that. But beyond that, we don't plan. So I met one of my friends, he's a big businessman, well known. And he was saying, well, I may not get enlightenment this year, this life, but I want to plan for my next life. So, can we plan for my next life if there is a next life? This book goes into details of how to live a happy life, because if you don't live a happy life and a good life now, what are your chances of coming back in a good form or for good place? And then it gets into the what you can do about it. And there are things you can do. You can even practice you know knowing your astral body or getting out of your physical body, and knowing that yes, you are not just your physical body, you have other bodies around you that go along with you, and after you leave there is a pathway for that, of what happens there. um, you
So when
don't
you
just
talk about
vanish.
other bodies, tell us more about it.
So there is a two kind of classifications, Vibhuti. One is that layers of body that Patanjali talks about. He says uh, physical body, Annamaya Kosh. Then he goes and say Pranamaya Kosh, that's the energy body. And then he goes into the form. So those are layers of body. You have to know that you have a physical body, and say, let's talk about physical and energy body. How do you connect the two? There are two connecting, main connecting principles. One is the breathing, and on that basis, just the breathing, there are so many meditations in which breathing is involved, including Vipassana that came from Buddhists. And then the chakras, different chakras also connect to the energy body, different parts of energy body. So the way you feel about energy body is that you think that suppose you are angry or suppose you have some sexual energy coming, you think it starts in your head or in your, we think everything starts in our physical body. But those principles say they start a much different level. By the time they come to physical body, it's ready to manifest. You are ready to, thappar maro ya talwar chalao. At that level, it becomes difficult to control. But if you see it coming from um, its original level, you can manage it. You may want to fight and then you can use it, but if you don't want to, at least you can manage it better if you know where it is originating, because by the time it moves up to your physical body, it's already established, it has gathered energy, like the hurricanes, it's like gathering energy as they go on. From grade 1, they become grade 5. So
And then
this
they
book,
peter away. Then they peter away. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Then
Yeah.
there is another classification which Osho has described it much better, but it has been known, to Buddhists and other people who didn't talk too much about it, because sometimes if you let people know that some, mystical truth, uh, they will debate about it, because it's, to experience you have to kind of pass through phases. So he talks about the physical body, then there is an ethereal body, which is kind of like a vapor, and it lasts for 13 days after the physical body dies, and that's one of the terama, one of the 13-day thing that happens in India. And then there is the astral body which travels. So this astral body is the one that, you know the story of Shankaracharya.
Right.
Many of our viewers may not know, but he did Kaya Pravesh. So he could transplant himself into the body of a king while his chelas, his disciples, kept his physical body kind of energized or in a shape that it could last the 6 months that he was in the other body. So all these techniques are there. I'm not saying I know all the techniques, but many of them I have experienced. And that's why I was able to write the book. I haven't gone beyond third body, beyond astral body, because there is mental body, there is cosmic body. Like Buddha and people like that have transcended to those levels. But there is a full description, anatomy and
Yeah.
physiology of these bodies.
Right.
And what I am saying through my book is science should explore that.
Why do you say science should explore that? Isn't exploration happening already? Because both at the levels of mind, body, and spirit, flash, consciousness, as we call it, in all these entire meditative practices, it is all about achieving higher sense of conscious awareness, right? The more conscious we become about our surroundings and environment, about our own self, that's the time when we uplift ourselves, we elevate ourselves, we achieve elevated equilibrium. However, and that brings me to the other point, the thought that I always talking about, stress. COVID has produced enormous stress in people because the world has changed. World has changed in many more ways than one. More than 600,000 people have died in the US alone, highest ever to die like that. And it still doesn't seem to be having any cure. Even politicians are discussing, debating, accusing each other of so many elements that if you're listening to television, you can't help but get stressed because you don't know the truth. Because each one is peddling his own truth. So the stress levels in individual, ordinary human beings, ordinary folks who do not have the ability to enhance or achieve elevated equilibrium, how do they deal with that? That's a bigger challenge, like how does an ordinary human being who in Maslow's hierarchy pyramid is not even able to get over the base to the second level, how does he think about to how do we help those people? That's where the major frustration, anger, violence stays. How do we help that group of people that who can actually that will lead to the stopping of violence. It's not the self-actualized one. Self-actualized one is already at peace. He's not even affected by any of this. But the two-thirds of that which sits below, mid and below, how do we help that group of people, which is where the masses are?
Yeah, I mean that's a loaded question. It has a lot of like we can't change the factors around us, right? So there is something you have to change inside you. But before I go into the stress and how it manifests and how we deal with it, I'll go back to the research that we were talking.
Yeah.
So the research that has happened so far is like mind is trying to do the research about consciousness, or mind is trying to do a research on mind itself. So it's like one mind is saying, like my mind is coming to you, if I'm a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and telling your mind to condition in a certain way. So all the work is being done there. Even if we talk about consciousness, we analyze consciousness from the mind's perspective, from the point of view how mind can perceive it, not how an experience is. So there is even the other research, like TM has done a lot of research and many other people have done a research. What is the effect of meditation on a physical body or the mind? As if, the whole experience in itself is immaterial. So coming to the same point of view, how do we deal with stress? And one of the main ways to deal with stress at the moment is conditioning your mind. So even the mindfulness practice has become a kind of a journey to some nice place and then come back to where you are. It has become a mind exercise. What I am trying to say that yes, you have to go beyond that. But I love your analogies. I mean, the way you started was amazing. Politics, does politics produce stress, or do politicians produce stress? I mean, they can create war, and of course what they do has an effect on the society. And the second point I was really interested to hear is that, is there a, I mean, there is a stress on an individual level, we understand, but is there an stress on a national level or global level? You brought this when you started, and you brought this again. And I know you do a lot of radio show, you do a lot of political analysis. And I think you have a point there that stress is not just an individual phenomena. A stress could be a group phenomena, whether it is a social phenomena or a national phenomena or a global phenomena. And there may be a global approach that you need for that. Um, do you see where I'm going?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for bringing back that topic because, a lot of it, as the saying goes, the other day, when we go for a retreat, a peace retreat, you don't watch TV for 3 days, you don't watch, you eat sattvic food, and it has a huge impact on your metabolism. One of the biggest realizations is 3 days you did not watch TV, you are at peace with yourself. The world continued as it is. So there's a very interesting realization is that when you shut your TV down or you shut your iPhone down, I do that periodically. I have a practice in which I shut my iPhone down completely. I don't look at it for certain hours, certain number of hours, because I don't want to look at it.
Right.
It gives you a tremendous amount of peace because you are not, and life didn't bother. It didn't, nothing changed. It all, nothing, everything continued. So that has given me a sense of belief that if I'm not looking at this goddamn instrument time and again to try to keep it, that itself reduces the stress levels.
No, I think you made a very good point. I mean, there is a you know generation, or there is a kind of thinking along those lines, and they call it digital therapeutics
Yeah,
or digital detox. And I think it's a great thing, especially for the young kids who are always on their iPad. Um, and how do you get them off? I mean, sometimes I've seen in families around me and my grandkids, that if the kid is not eating, let them watch something, and then the kid keeps eating, but is the focus is on the iPad.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and is that good or is that bad? It's hard to say, because sometimes you can say that they are growing with the technology, they don't have to learn it. So it's an interesting phenomena. But on a global level, Vibhuti, there was an experiment, and Osho calls that it was an experiment. I mean, so I take his word for it.
Mm.
The Tibet was an experiment. So
Oh,
what the Buddhists did, that on the top of Himalayas or at a very high place, if you create a sattvic kind of a spiritual environment, it will trickle down to the rest of the world. I don't know how much it did work or how much it helped, but at least there was an attempt by a group of people. And also the people who, it's like one of the stories goes around that if Buddha was in a place 2 mile radius, there was no hinsa. Now, was it literally like that, or was the effect he had an like a sphere of influence in a way that was there? And many people, like, even I think it was Swami Vivekananda who said, give me 100 people and I'll change the world. So there is an attempt that can be made in that level, that if you raise spiritual level of X number of people, that may be the tipping point.
Yeah, you are quite right, because no religion, no practice ever preaches war. At the same time, is part of the creative destruction process. Lord Shiva, Bhagwan Shiva. I won't call Lord. I always call Hindu gods as gods or Bhagwan. I never call them lords because they are not members of House of Lords in England. So the point. So I always say that Bhagwan Shiva has the third eye. He is known as a creator and destroyer, and we have entities that explains the whole process. I will come back to something else also in this one. Do these stress levels go down if you practice certain value systems? I'll give you my example: honesty, integrity. These are two things which came to me in my life because I was in a job. There are thousands of bankers around. There are bankers are thieves and robbers and everything else. But in my case, what happened was that I learned that I control nothing in life. That's how I busted my stress levels of requirement of performance, producing a result, and dealing with a client. Because I knew that the man I was going to deal with, he's not an idiot. I can't make a fool of him. He has the money, he has the brains and the smarts to know how to make his money or empire, business empire that he has done, right? So I can't fool him. I have to be honest with him. And if he's a smart guy, he will see through the fact that I'm honest. I'm not lying. Because it takes a minute for somebody to figure out if the other person is deceiving you or lying to you, or he's only, trying to talk about something is there or not. So this not today is not a session for a personal story, but honesty and integrity came to me from that point of view, that I control nothing in life other than my own honesty and my own integrity. I control nothing else in life. I control that I am honest and I have integrity. That's all that matters to me. And the moment that message began to go forward, I realized that I had shed thousands of pounds of weight on my head, in my mind, in my brain. And it completely took the stress out of me. I didn't have to lie. So I began to say since then, honesty is not the best policy, it's the only policy. If you're honest with yourself, then your life becomes so easy from that moment onwards that you don't ever have to worry about lying. So I'm coming to the common man perspective part of it. There are a whole lot of things to happen. I started with life to life story. I also want to tell the audience that Dr. Krishna Bhatt is also a founder of an app called Relax, RELAXX. You can download it, it's for free. You can have a look at it. And as a meditator, I'm involved with this. It is fascinating how your life can change if you begin what I said, improve your own integrity and commitment with honesty. I would say that, like when meditation I went into, I was told to do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. That discipline, that honesty that I had to keep to myself, not to anybody else. I had to do it for myself. So, friends, when you are watching this, think about it. Everything begins with you. How you relax, how you bust your stress, how you deal with the environment is all about you, your choice. So I would urge you, go back. There are any number of instruments available, choices available to people. Download this app and have a look at it. Because you will have plenty of choices to do things, and including for children. So, Krishnaji, tell us something about where did the inspiration come for doing this? Because it's a remarkable app. The kind of what I would put it this way, the kind of depth you have gone into to put this whole thing together is just about fantastic. And I'm not paying you a lip service or a compliment because I'm going through that. See, chakra, the power chakra, the entire thing that you have said there is marvelous. So share with us, how did this inspiration come about to put this knowledge and spirituality out in the open?
No, thank you, Vibhuti. Thank you very much. Um, So I have been a meditator like you have been a meditator, and I've meditated ever since, even before my medical school. So my journey of meditation and medicine, have gone about equal uh, dedication and length. I have met as many gurus and mahatmas as I have had, mentors in medicine. But I think the basic concept when I started, I'm saying, mind is studying mind. And I'm not against mind. We should be friends with mind, but there is a limitation of mind. So you have to go beyond that. And the only way to go beyond that is meditation. There is no other way. You have to spend some time in silence with yourself and inside you. So the beauty is that mind outside connects, outside, and we all know that. We all see, I see you, I see my hospital, I go and work, and mind is useful there. When we talk about inside, we suddenly think inside is empty, whereas the inside is actually full of ideas, thoughts, creativity, energy. When you sleep, you are not just being silent. You are being energized. You are being recharged. The same way in meditation, you create energy. If you are not creating energy, you are not meditating. And the way we handle, I talked with you, I think I sent you a message. How do you deal with thoughts when you meditate? It doesn't matter which meditation. And my new thinking, I used to say just be a sakshi, just be a witness. But that's not enough. It doesn't work sometimes. Thought comes and sways you away. So a way to be in meditation is just to coexist with it. Let the thoughts be there. They will be there, whether you like it or not. They will be there. So just let it be there. There will be, creativity there. There will be, energy there. And all these things, what happens is that your energy level starts going up. So I'll give you a short story, Vibhuti. Vibhuti. I'm not saying Vibhuti Ji, but
We are
we
friends. Go ahead.
always tend to call you that.
Yeah.
We respect you anyway.
Thank you.
So this is a simple story. So a friend of mine got a message from his wife that you took my car keys and I found the keys, the spare keys, and I'm going wherever she had to go. And this friend, my friend, is a revelation for him because they both have been meditating for some time. So 10 years ago, if that key was lost, he will be getting a phone call. Where are you? Where are the keys? What have you done? I'm getting stressed. And he probably would have to come back and give the keys or find the keys for her. It would have been a Mahabharata or World War III. But he simply got a message that, okay, you took my keys, I found the other keys, I'm going. You can see the stress. We enjoy building up stress sometimes, it seems like. It's like there is a Zen story I like. Somebody went to a Zen master and said, I'm getting stressed, I'm so worried, my mind and this and that. And he didn't say, the Zen master didn't say anything. At the end, he wrote something in Japanese, and this guy couldn't read, so he got someone else to read. And he says, you don't like, well, you don't want to be happy. So, so it's like you said it, when we were in Patna or Bihar or Muzaffarpur and all that, if you recount how much, stress was there, if you create a list, I think every day there was a stress. Either
Absolutely.
stress of heat or the stress of rickshawala or the stress of not getting cinema ticket, the stress was there. It just didn't appear to be a stress.
Correct. Yeah. Looking back, sometimes we wonder, how did I fit into the Fiat car? Why did we pay premium money for that stupid bunch of matchbox? Like,
Right.
you know. So you are right. I mean, this is something very. But what is important, Krishnaji, is that I find it all begins from us individually, taking control of our life. You know, I mean, I'm sure you did too. But I studied in a clear Hindi medium school up to 12th grade. I learned English after that. So if one can learn English language, you can learn anything in life, because this English language has no head and tail, has no meaning to any of its spellings. The point of the matter, which I say, is that it's commitment that makes things happen. When you commit to doing something, it happens. And I definitely do not feel the same levels of stress because of practices that I've adopted in my life. One of them is there are things that I don't control. I don't control the weather. So what's the point in my getting upset about a bad weather? So when we
Yeah.
begin to understand and appreciate, and that's what I call, in my silly little way of defining things, that when you become consciously aware that why are you worried about the weather? It is what it is. You can't affect it. Dress accordingly or sit at home, right? That's the only choice you have. So when you begin to take things into, when you get to terms with things that come to your life in your life, stress goes away. But I want you to talk about the inspiration for the Relax app that you designed. Like I do go around, as a meditator, as you are a meditator, to look around things. What are tools available? You Google and you have 1,000 millions of meditation music available, pretty good ones too. And you have apps available to ameliorate your issues. It's big money, big business. To you, to offer, you know, to make this happen, where did that entrepreneurial zeal, how did it happen to you? I want to know that part.
So no,
How did it
I
all
mean,
materialize?
I'll share with you clearly, Vibhuti. So I saw what is going on in the world. I mean, there is no question that the platform has been raised by people like Mahesh Yogi, people like Deepak Chopra, people like Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. There is a platform that has been set, but many of the deeper meditation techniques have not been shared. And except for Osho, who did a lot of things,
Right.
but in a scientific way, in explaining the way that at least I thought that it should be expressed, I don't see that there. And then I think people are ready for that. I mean, people were not ready for probably deeper dives. And when I was doing book talks in libraries on the journey from life to life, people were asking me deeper questions. They were taking me deeper, and I was kind of humbled because there were people there who have probably, it's like I met somebody who has got 200 copies of Bhagavad Gita. I met another person who is studying Sanskrit for the last 10 years. I met people who go to retreats, like you were talking, 10-day retreats, and they have been there more than I have been. So there is a lot of American people who are kind of heading that way. So yes, stress is out there. Yes, COVID has brought it out more because people are at home, and domestic violence went up, and stress went up, and many statistics went off the chart when COVID happened. But at the same time, there is a lot of efforts have come up. Zoom has come up, Calm has come up, Headspace has come up, Sadhguru has come up. So all these people are there. So is there room for something that people really can have? It's like when you go to the beach on an ocean, you can go knee deep water and just enjoy on the beach. You can go a little deeper and swim. You can go in a little deeper and snorkel. You can even deep dive there, scuba diving. So in relax is kind of starts from the beach. You can have those things, but if you wanted to really go deep dive, there is tools for that as well. So that is the phenomena that I wanted to share with the public. And you have been, encouraging me from day one. Santosh ji has been encouraging me from day one. So all that energy helped me to keep going and make this thing happen, which now has become such a wonderful. I didn't imagine it will be such a good package already. I mean, we can always add more content, but there were help, like content, even content was coming from different sources, because I cannot create that, music. I'm not a, composer, but there are people who we got, and they're really meditative composers. There are some of the music that has come, Vibhutiji. These people are in Goa, and they have come from Italy and different parts of the world. I mean, not only India, and they have been, meditating and doing this, say Tibetan, that bowl. That music was created by, this kind of people who are into this meditation. So it has, the chakra music and all that. It has some deep ragas, in that,
Mhm.
that affect that, center, that, that particular chakra. So it has even the nature sound. Somebody in Boston, Thatcher Adams. I mean, he gave the whole nature sound because he loved the app, and he just said, "I have it here." He does corporate advertising, from big companies like Lancet and Nike. So these people have come up and helped us create something that I think is fantastic.
That's so good to know. I mean, this is something I want to pick the conversation from the point that you said something very, very remarkable, is that the desire in people to dive deeper, to know more. And the analogy that you gave, that of a beach, and you walk into, ankle deep, then you knee deep, then you take a swim, you can do snorkeling, you can do surfing. In the same beach, everything is happening. And it is the forward journey, is the continuous journey to dive deeper into life, to see something that goes. I mean, there's a very beautiful moment in a movie called Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, in which
Mhm.
three friends go out, and the anubhuti, there's no, I have not found any English word to match anubhuti, expression of
Right.
anubhuti. तो उसको जो अनुभूति होती है, when he takes a dive, he goes into the ocean and he sees things around him, that's awakening. That's a realization of another world. But I'm coming down to real brass tracks, the stress that happens politically driven. And this is also important conversation, because every Hindu, every Indian must be consciously aware that we are under attack. Otherwise, how does an assistant professor of Rutgers University, where there are 5,000 Hindus studying there, Hindu students studying there, she takes it upon herself to organize dismantling Hindutva Global Conference, dismantling Hindutva globally. And when I heard about that, I was astonished that how is it that a group of people like us, who are not a law and order problem in any part of the world, and I can say this with pride, apart from occasional cases of individual crime, Hindus are not a law and order problem anywhere in the world. How a peaceful group of people like us can be hit hard to dismantle what? And Audrey Truschke had made a statement, invited people to join to learn the power and threat of Hindutva that the world has to face. And I'm thinking, what power? We don't even know how to exercise our power. We don't even know what powers we have. Power and threat of Hindutva. That's the time, call it stress, call it anger, but there was definitely a rise of a different kind of an energy in me. And I realized, and I said so in several forums, And I said so in several forums that it is potentially because somewhere along the line, religion has its base in ignorance and fear. They issue passport for heaven or hell. If you do this, you will go to heaven. If you don't do this, you will go to hell, without which nobody has ever seen. My Punjabi friend always tells me, Vibhuti ji, khud mariye na, swarga jaiye na. So, if you have to experience heaven, you've got to die first. So, my thought process to you is that while the world is understanding about us at a lower level of things, the barbarian is at the gate because they are swayed. You use the word swayed by hate, that their faith is somewhere going to be affected if these Hindu jokers are able to carry their message of universality and the humanity and the spirituality. Your thought on that?
My thought is very simple, Vibhuti. So there is a, I'll start from the stress itself. So in this app and in general, one way is to deal with the problem. So you have acute stress, you have anxiety, you either take medicine or do whatever exercise, mental exercise or meditation to
Mhm.
deal with that. But more important than that is what you said, pursuing, your excellence, your perfection. So when you focus on that, suddenly the stress takes a back seat, because now your whole energy is focused on you moving forward. And the third one is innovation and creativity, which you can create a flow. And the flow of innovation and creativity comes from inside. I don't know if we have time to discuss that, but what I'm saying is that instead of trying to focus on, it's like the problem itself, you can go towards the solution or even beyond that, and then, the rest follows. Like Prime Minister Modi. I mean, he's a spiritual man as well as a political man. He keeps moving in the direction that he sees that we have to go, rather than just deal with the problem. So that is that's one of the key elements. Now, when it comes to Hindus or Hindutva or whatever word you want to say, I think it needs to survive. It is essential for the world to survive, because they have the solution for the future world that other people don't have. So that needs to be protected. And some people will say, well, we have lasted 5,000 or 10,000. You know, that doesn't mean anything. You still need to have a strategy. You still need to have the same strategy that anyone else applies. I mean, it's not a question of stress. It's not a question of how good you are or what your history is. It's a question of, one party will use one strategy, you have to use another strategy to bring out the best in you, and express that. We have never been a good marketeer, right? But I think it's important that you bring it out, and let the world know what you have to offer. Let the world know what you can do. Yes, there will be other people who will say how bad you are, but somebody has to express how good you are. Otherwise, you can keep complaining. And I know you believe in what I'm saying. So,
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you because my story of life is something like that because I learned along the way. As, as the saying goes, if you're not playing the game, you will never know what the game is all
right.
about. And it's only when you play, then you learn. And when you learn, then you realize that there are so many people who are much better than you are. So
Yeah.
if you have to become better, then you have to try harder and harder. It's a very simple process to understand that. So you are
It's
absolutely
very
right.
humbling, isn't it,
It
Vibhuti?
is. It
In
is.
any field, you think you have so much spiritual, you know, experience. You find somebody who is 10 times,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and your head bows down. It's like you say,
Absolutely. Yeah.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. You
yeah,
become humble. You got to become humble. It's like, you know, you know that I'm great fan of learning from sports. The best of football players have missed the penalty shots. while they have scored incredible goals from any angle, which will defy the laws of physics, right?
I missed a simple shot, right?
Missed a simple
Yeah,
shot, right?
yeah.
It happens all
I
the
mean,
time.
it's hard coming from a surgeon. You know, most surgeons you will meet, they have a little chip on the shoulder. They have to feel like they are the greatest surgeon in the world. You know, it is needed as well. You need that pride to be able to, function in an atmosphere where you kind of control the atmosphere which is working on life, right? I mean,
That's what God doesn't claim, you know. He's not a surgeon or a doctor.
so so it is sometimes humbling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, this is, I believe the time has come, you know, with the advent of science and technology. You know, I personally believe that what is miracle is what happens when you do not know why it happened.
Right.
Absence of science and
Yeah,
technology. You know? So, you know, the other day I had a conversation with the lady, Nina Rai, who's written a brilliant book on Ayodhya. And we all think that there is one Pushpak Viman. She writes there in her book, she did her research on that, and she said there are 5 kinds of aircrafts those days. And she gives the description of all those 5 aircrafts. We don't know about that. There's so much we do not know. The point which I'm trying to drive at is science and technology have evolved so much that we now know certain truths that religion can't explain. Religion has to take a backseat in the manner religion is practiced. That's what I mean to say. I'm not saying I'm not against any religion. I'm a believer in the faith, and I strongly believe in it. I say it with the bottom of my heart. If you have found your happiness in Jesus, good for you. If you have found your happiness in Muhammad, Allah, good for you. But don't tell me I'm wrong, because maybe I'm still a seeker. Don't tell me my Krishna is wrong. That's the point which the world must come to terms with, because we all, you and I, and person from Abu Dhabi to Zanzibar, any country in the world, they all have 2 eyes, 2 ears, body parts performing identical function, including women taking 9 months to deliver what is medically called as a normal delivery of a child of 9 months, right? No God, nobody's God has changed that reality. So the moment we begin to know that there is no heaven, there is no hell, it's right here. Idhar hi hai, yahi hai, right? So you make a heaven or hell here. There is nothing esoteric. So how do you feel in that process? I have been told, you said about that. I have been told by many of my American friends, why the hell don't you tell us about your philosophy? We want to know more. But what ails us? And this is the Hindu problem. And I'm asking this question to learn and invoke others. What is it about us that we do not tell others about our philosophy? Instead, we let it go. What is it about that? What do you
well,
think?
you feel that we haven't told, which I kind of disagree. I
Okay.
think it has been told, and what has been told is what people were ready for, and now I think they are ready for more. So one of the uh, issues is that maybe the knowledge Jesus had, the knowledge Muhammad had, the knowledge Buddha had, maybe it's same. Who they were talking to is what the message, like what they can understand.
Hmm.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
so I think the message has been coming. Vivekanand came here and he gave a wonderful speech, and and all the names we have already mentioned. Many other people have come and given their uh, bhakti or whatever way they have created the information is out there. I mean, all the Gita is there, Mahabharata is there. Question is, how is it being seen? I mean, is it being seen as a mythology or interesting story, or is it being seen as a deep secrets in there? Um, like in Mahabharata times or Ramayana times, when you read that, you feel there is a Narad who can, so there is a communication between different lokas and different kind of Not everybody could relate, but there were some people who could. That's how the story is written. Was that possible in those times? And now, can we still make it possible in our times? So that is where I say that science has to keep moving. Like I always quote this formula from Einstein that he has given. I think it's a bigger formula than E equals mc square. And when he says how to create a flow from inside out, and that is a formula. It's like, for lack of anything else, Vibhuti, how do you create a flow? One common flow that we all know about is a sexual flow. You find somebody that you like, you create an atmosphere, you know, and then the flow slowly and slowly starts. Then there is a word flow, foreplay, and then you move on. The flow doesn't start if you don't think about it in the beginning. So the same way for any creativity, any formula, any innovation, Einstein says, I think 99 times. So he starts thinking on a topic. Then he doesn't get the answer. And then he says, I stop thinking. I swim in silence. So he goes in silence inside his own self, but he swims there. He's not sitting in silence. And then the truth comes to him. Now the flow starts. So the flow has to also have a knowledge of what flow to give you. Like in our, ancient times, people were all about enlightenment. Like at the moment, everybody wants to relieve their stress. At that time, everyone wanted to be enlightened.
Right.
That was a common thing. Now, if you say something, people will roll their eyes. But maybe it is coming. I mean, maybe in few more years, people will be looking at that, because getting relief from stress is not the end point.
That's right. No, it's not. And you brought two very important points. You brought in Einstein's thought process. You know, I have adopted. There are many quotations that float around. There are books of quotations on spirituality, business, and everything else. I have adopted two quotations in my life. They have become my mool mantra. One is Einstein's, and we talked about solution. And Einstein's quote, which is my all-time favorite, is, any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. It takes courage to move in the other direction. We were talking about finding solutions, right? So my appeal to all the people who are listening today is this: simplify your problem. You will realize that problem doesn't exist in reality. And 99% of the time, everything that you consider a problem is not a problem at all if you just think about it in an open mind. The second one, which is very important, second quote which I have adopted in my life and I work on it, is Swami Vivekananda's. When he was called upon to define what is poison, he said, anything in excess. What a mind, what a definition, right?
What a beautiful.
Anything in excess, right? These are beautiful. So the point which I'm trying to say to you is that you brought in another very important point, and that's something sensational. You brought that point, which I have talked about as well. So we have meeting of the minds in there. That sexual energy is perhaps one of the most beautiful creations, gifts of God to the humanity. Man and woman exist in every species of life, right? Every species, for procreation, regeneration, and purposes that are there. However, what is supposed to be God-given has been called a sin in both Islamic faith and Christianity. They call it sin. And Jesus is there to absolve you of your sin. And I'm saying we gave the world the Kama Sutra to fulfill God's messages and understanding, and you call it sin. I have had this conversation with my Christian friends, and we have fun having this conversation. I said, regardless of whatever position you adopt, we are all the same. There is no difference about it. So, your last word on it.
Well, no, I think just picking on your thing, simplicity is the hallmark of Relax app. We have made every meditation simple as it can be. So you're not going on a long trip of, kind of ups and downs and many formulas and all that. It's every meditation in that is a simple one. Even the intermittent silence is just simple 4 steps, nothing else. Even chakra, just focus on the chakra and let the music do the work. It's just very simple uh, techniques.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming and talking this, in an otherwise stressful world we had a spiritual conversation about how to get rid of it. And viewers, I hope you have benefited from it, because this is a very unusual show today. We didn't talk about politics. Yes, we did talk about politics. We didn't talk about giving you visa and passport for heaven or hell, but told you it's right here. And there are simple techniques that can ease off the weight of your shoulders. Think about it. Learn to relax. RELAX. But go through the app. Check it out. You might have something that would.
RELAXX.
Yes, check the app which has a double X in it. And then you will find that there will be something that will appeal to you. And by the way, including children, it's time for us Hindus to take the message of our eternal peace, beginning with ourselves. All that happens is beginning with you, with me, with everybody else. Everything begins with us right here. And Krishnaji, as I say, Osho, I'm a great fan of. And his chapters that I have read on mind is mind-boggling. The way he simplifies and explains the complexity of his great. So thank you, viewers. Have a great weekend. Have a great week ahead, and see you next week. Krishnaji, thank you once again.